When we came back out, I saw it. A slip of paper wedged under the windshield wiper. Leave town. Your daughters aren't safe. I thought I was going to throw up, right there in the parking lot. I walked into the church that Sunday morning, with the familiar sound of the organ playing in the background. But this time, there was no sense of peace. Morning light streamed through the stained glass windows, casting strange, shifting colors across the brown tile floor. It landed right on my ex-mother-in-law, Linda, who was standing with a circle of women about my age, all close friends from her congregation. They wore tight-fitting dresses that hugged their waists, the curves of their hips and breasts accentuated beneath the thin fabric, making it hard not to notice, even as my mind reeled from the tension in the air. I took a deep breath, trying not to meet their contemptuous stares. My name is David. I'm 38 years old, a software engineer living in Seattle. I've always been proud of my work, but today, I just wanted to disappear. How did these people, who once welcomed me with warm smiles, become a pack of wolves in sheep's clothing? And the worst part? My daughter Emma, just 12 years old, stood beside me with red, swollen eyes, still blinking away tears. My heart ached. What the hell was happening in this place that was supposed to be holy? These were the same people I greeted every Sunday morning. Now, they turned their backs when I passed. Marta, one of Linda's more loyal allies, strutted across the stone floor in tall heels, the echo tapping in sync with my thudding heart. Every step she took felt like a blade slicing deeper into my dignity. What were they planning behind those silent glares? I remembered when Linda used to reach out to pat my head, seemingly friendly gestures, but always with that look in her eye. Her lips pursed, her gaze shifting from my chest down to my daughter's legs as Emma walked by. There was something filthy in her eyes, something that blended disdain with a quiet, twisted hunger. Were they mocking me? Or worse, were they baiting me? Then Sarah walked by, a younger woman, long glossy hair, body that screamed attention. She glanced at me with a sly smirk, her lips curling like they were whispering, "You know what to do with a look like this, don't you?" My chest tightened. What did she want? Was this all some elaborate setup? Linda soon approached me, that fake cordial smile plastered on her face. She leaned in and whispered, "David, I'm sure you wouldn't want the family's name dragged through the mud, right?" Her voice pierced like a needle. After 4 years of trying to prove myself, I was still nothing more than the worthless ex-son-in-law in her eyes. I didn't reply, but the question rang in my mind. Why was she doing this? And how far would she go to hurt me and my girls? Around me, every gaze, every plastic smile, every blink held an agenda. Alice tilted her head, eyes gleaming. "You'd better behave, or else." Her voice sweet, yet laced with threat. I could feel her warm breath brush my ear, unsettling and strangely intimate. I thought to myself, this can't go on forever. I have to fight back. I pulled Emma close. I could feel her shaky breathing against my chest. For the first time, I realized, being treated like you're nothing, like you're disposable, can be the cruelest form of violence, especially when it comes from people who once claimed to love you. I closed my eyes and asked myself the only question that mattered. Do I have the strength to protect my daughters from this silent war? And, even more terrifying, who was really pulling the strings behind the curtain? It didn't take long for me to realize the harassment Linda orchestrated wasn't just dirty looks and whispered threats in the church halls. It seeped into our lives like a slow, creeping poison. Quiet, steady, and invasive. It started with anonymous phone calls, late at night. A woman's voice, low and hissing. God knows what you've done. Then the line would go dead. The first few times, I thought it was just some sick prank. But when it kept happening, new numbers, new voices, I knew someone was trying to mentally break me down. Emma became anxious. She refused to sleep alone. One night, I found her crying in the closet. Whispering, I saw someone standing outside my window. I sprinted into the rain in nothing but a bathrobe, a baseball bat in hand, but no one was there. Was I imagining it? Or was someone truly watching us? Then it got more public. One morning, while dropping the girls off at school, I saw red lipstick scrawled across my windshield, "Worthless father." I froze. My heart slammed against my chest. Emma's hands trembled as she asked, "Daddy, did Grandma write that? Does she hate us that much?" I didn't know what to say. All I could think was, how far is Linda willing to go? Things got worse. At the grocery store, a strange woman stared at me from across the aisle. At the gym, I overheard two men whispering, "That guy, he's the deadbeat raising his kids alone now. Wife ditched him." Who the hell was spreading this? Who was feeding lies into the mouths of strangers? And then, one rainy afternoon, someone knocked at my door. It was Brenda, Linda's longtime friend. She wore a skin-tight blouse, no bra, legs for days, and a smile that didn't belong in a church. She stood too close, her perfume sweet and heavy. "I heard you've been lonely," she purred, pressing a hand against my arm. "Thought I'd drop by to help." I took a step back, instincts flaring. Her eyes locked onto mine like hooks. She leaned in closer and said, "You don't have to pretend to be strong, David. Everyone knows your wife left you for a reason." I slammed the door in her face, but my hand was shaking. My stomach churned with the realization. This wasn't random. This was a setup. But what kind of trap were they trying to lead me into? I started logging everything. Phone calls, visitors, gossip. I installed security cameras around the house. I even recorded conversations. I didn't know what I'd do with it all yet, but I knew I needed proof. One day, this nightmare would need receipts. Then came the worst moment. Emma's school called. One of the parents had anonymously reported that I was bringing female companions home while children were present. A lie. A filthy, dangerous lie. They opened a child welfare investigation. Emma looked at me with wide, frightened eyes and asked, "Do they hate us that much, Daddy? Why would they lie like that?" I didn't answer. I just held her tighter and thought, if their goal was to ruin me, they were doing a damn good job. People at church stopped looking me in the eye. Some turned away. Others muttered when I passed, "That's him, the pervert." But I kept showing up. Not because I still believed in the place, but because I wanted them to see me. I wanted to look them in the face and find out, Who's laughing while I'm falling apart? The following Sunday, Brenda showed up again, this time in a blood-red dress, no shame, no bra. Her gaze lingered on me like she was daring me to make a move. I caught Linda watching from across the courtyard, lips tight in that smug, victorious way. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just harassment. This was character assassination. A perfectly crafted, morally twisted smear campaign. And the question I kept asking was, are they trying to frame me for something I didn't do? Something that could destroy me for good? I wasn't sure, but I knew one thing. They wanted me to fall, and I had to decide, either fall quietly or fight like hell. I had tried to stay silent. I believed that if I kept my head down, stayed quiet, took the hits, they would eventually stop. I thought maybe, just maybe, the storm would pass. I was wrong. It didn't stop. It escalated. On a random Tuesday afternoon, just before I was scheduled to present to a major client on Zoom, my company email inbox exploded with anonymous messages. Attached to one of them was a screenshot of a fabricated conversation, doctored to look like I'd been trying to seduce Brenda. The last line in that email read, "Is this the kind of man your company wants representing them?" I sat frozen. My throat dried out. My heart jackhammered in my chest. I didn't even make it to the Zoom call. Instead, my boss called me into a private meeting. His face was heavy with discomfort. "David, this is serious. Until we figure this out, I think it's best if you take some time off." Just like that, I was suspended. No income, no dignity, no clue how much worse it was going to get. Driving home, I kept asking myself, how did they even get my company email? Who's feeding them this garbage? Who's pulling the strings? That night, I took Emma to a convenience store. When we came back out, I saw it, a slip of paper wedged under the windshield wiper. "Leave town. Your daughters aren't safe." I thought I was going to throw up, right there in the parking lot. That night, I held Emma so tight in my arms, I thought I might suffocate her. And then, it got worse. The school called. They said someone had submitted a formal complaint, accusing me of bringing adult women home with children present. Not true. Not even close. But the school was required to investigate. Emma sat on the couch, eyes wide and glassy. "Daddy, do they really hate us that much? What did we ever do to them?" I couldn't answer. I was too busy trying not to break down. The next Sunday, I walked into church anyway. I needed to see them. I needed to look them in the eye and figure out, which one of you is the snake? Who is smiling while you stab me in the back? They all kept their distance. Some stared, most whispered, but all of them watched. Brenda showed up again, this time outside in the garden courtyard, wearing a dress so tight and low-cut, I could see the curve of her nipples beneath the fabric. She smiled like nothing had happened. From across the lot, I saw Linda watching us both. Her face was still, triumphant. That's when it hit me. They weren't trying to just humiliate me. They were building a case, a story, a setup. They wanted me to crack, to lash out, to mess up, and then they'd pounce. They were laying a perfect little trap. And the worst part? I had no one left who believed me. I walked to the car holding Emma's hand, and I made a decision right then and there. No more playing defense. If they wanted to play dirty, they were about to learn how clean a man like me could fight. With evidence, with truth, and with patience. They thought they'd chosen an easy target, but I was done waiting for justice. I was going to build it myself, one receipt at a time. I didn't fight back by screaming. I fought back with silence, so sharp it cut deeper than words. I didn't rant on social media. I didn't send angry emails or show up at church throwing accusations. Instead, I started documenting every call, every whisper, every fake smile and drive-by visit. I logged it all. I installed security cameras around the house. I reached out to a friend in IT to trace the anonymous calls. I even baited Brenda into visiting again, this time with the recorder on. And just as I suspected, during that visit, she slipped up. Her voice was soft, syrupy, and venomous as ever. Linda just wants to protect the church's image. Me? I'm just here to help you unwind. I smiled, raised my glass of wine, and toasted her. But inside, I was stone cold. The camera hidden in the vase had caught every word, and I had to ask myself, how many others were helping me like this? I hired a private investigator to follow Linda. 2 weeks later, he handed me a hard drive full of pictures, recordings, and surveillance logs. One recording stopped me cold. Linda was sitting in a cafe with the head pastor, speaking in a low, urgent voice. David is a threat to our image. We need to discredit him before others start asking questions. That was it. Confirmation. This wasn't just about petty revenge. Linda was protecting something, the secret, and I needed to find out what it was. I started digging into the church's financials, tracing donation flows. I found several large transfers funneling into an account under Linda's daughter, Ashley. The kicker? Ashley lived in California and wasn't affiliated with the church in any way. My hands trembled as I sat back. What the hell were they laundering through her name? I printed out everything. One set for a lawyer. One set I kept locked away as my personal warhead. But I didn't blow it up yet. No, timing was everything. I found out about the church's annual fundraising gala. Big event, big donors, live streamed across the country. Perfect stage. I started writing my speech, not to threaten, but to reveal. Not with anger, but with absolute calm. Because truth doesn't need to shout. I practiced in front of the mirror, over and over. The opening lines burned into my brain. I used to be part of this community. I used to believe in your prayers, but I've learned something. God doesn't live in whispers or secrets. He lives in truth. And that truth is what I've come to share. I knew there'd be no going back after that night. But I also knew this. If I didn't do this, my daughters would grow up in the shadow of someone else's lies. That night, I watched Emma sleep. I brushed the hair from her face and whispered, "Daddy's gonna make it right. But you have to promise me. Never let anyone else decide your worth." I stood by the window afterward, staring into the dark. Tomorrow, no one would be laughing. The annual fundraiser at St. Margaret's Church had always been a spectacle. An event that pulled in the congregation, local politicians, wealthy donors. And I knew Linda wouldn't miss the chance to bask in that spotlight. That morning, I dressed deliberately. Black suit, deep navy tie, clean shaven, a light touch of cologne, not to impress, to prepare for a public execution, delivered with absolute grace. When I walked into the event hall, the air shifted. Murmurs followed me like shadows. A few people froze. Others exchanged glances, uncertain if they should speak or look away. Linda stood on stage, among floral arrangements, microphone in hand, rehearsed smile radiating righteousness. Her voice filled the room with sugary sermons about charity, forgiveness, and protecting the community from moral threats. Every word sharp as a dagger. I sat down in the third row, directly across from the senior pastor. He stiffened when he saw me, then quickly turned to Linda, waiting for instructions like a nervous guard dog. After her speech, a member of the organizing committee took the mic. And now, a few words from a member of our extended family, a man many of you know. Please welcome David Wilkins. The room fell into complete silence. Linda froze. Brenda choked on her wine. I stood and walked up to the stage. Spotlight, microphone, center stage, perfect. Thank you for giving me a moment, I began, voice calm, deep. I'm not here to ask for sympathy. I'm here to share a truth, one that many people in this room have tried very hard to bury. I connected my laptop to the projector. The screen behind me lit up. The video of Brenda played first, her own voice echoing across the room. Linda just wants to protect the church's image. Me? I'm just here to help you unwind. Gasps. Then photos of Linda sitting with the senior pastor. Audio clips followed. Her voice crystal clear. David is a threat to our image. We need to discredit him. Then, the bank statements, transaction logs, donation trails leading to Ashley's account in California. I turned around and said, "These documents are real. This story is real. The lies you've been told about me were designed to hide something far uglier, a web of manipulation and financial misconduct, orchestrated by the woman you call Mother Linda." Linda shot up from her seat, screaming, "He's lying! This is all fabricated!" But her voice trembled. People weren't looking at me anymore. They were looking at her, and they were angry. I stepped toward her. "You tried to ruin me. You dragged my daughters into your war. You used religion like a weapon, and you thought no one would ever challenge you." The senior pastor approached the microphone, shaking. We will open a formal investigation. Effective immediately, Linda and Brenda will be suspended from all church duties." Linda's knees buckled. Brenda fled the room. I left the stage without another word. But I didn't need to say anything more. The avalanche had already begun. On the drive home, Emma texted me, "I'm proud of you, Daddy." My eyes burned. I had turned the tide. But I also knew this wasn't over. There were still pieces on the board. Still secrets buried. And now the whole community was asking, what else has been hidden all these years? 2 days after the fundraiser, St. Margaret's Church descended into chaos. Their Facebook page, the church forum, even the newsletter. Everything exploded with comments, questions, screenshots, and recordings. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone had a theory. But one thing was clear. The mask had fallen. I didn't have to say a word. The truth had already gone viral. Then I got a call from someone I never expected. Kelly. She used to be the church board secretary, one of Linda's trusted inner circle. Her voice trembled on the line. "I know what happened to you, David. And I saw things. Linda used to make me sign off on transfers that didn't make sense. I was scared. but I can't stay silent anymore. I told her to send whatever she had. A day later, a thick manila envelope arrived on my doorstep. Inside, invoices, internal emails, donation records, and a handwritten note. I'm sorry. I should have spoken up sooner. Which left me asking, if Kelly knew this much, how many others were complicit? How many stayed quiet just to keep their roles in Linda's kingdom? Even more damning, Facebook posts began popping up from former church members. One read, "We donated for over a decade. What the hell did we pay for?" Another, "Why did they let her control everything without oversight?" Brenda vanished from social media entirely. Gone without a trace. And Linda? She didn't go quietly. Friday evening, her car pulled up outside my house. I stood on the front steps, arms crossed. She stepped out slowly, draped in a black shawl, face pale, lips tight, but her eyes still burned with fire. "What do you want, David?" she said hoarsely. "You want my reputation, my money, revenge?" I looked her in the eyes, calm and unflinching. "I want my daughter to grow up without fear, without lies." She gave a bitter laugh. "You think you've won? These people? You think they care about truth? They'll forget in a month. They always do. They don't want honesty. They want something easy to believe." I said, "That's fine, but this time, I'm the one telling the story." She didn't reply. After a long silence, she turned, climbed back into her car, and slammed the door shut. As she drove off, I saw her grip the steering wheel so tight, her knuckles turned white. The next day, every major local outlet received an anonymous email. Attached were all the documents, recordings, and transaction logs I'd gathered. I wasn't the one who sent them. It was Kelly. And apparently, a few others I hadn't even known were watching. Later that afternoon, the Seattle Police Department released a statement. "We are opening an inquiry into potential misuse of charitable funds within the St. Margaret's Church Foundation." The dominoes were falling. Linda was formally removed from the church board. Brenda was named in an official complaint for defamation. My name was cleared from the school's welfare investigation. And to top it off, my company reinstated me, with an apology from the CEO himself. But none of it compared to that quiet moment one night when Emma curled up next to me, laid her head on my chest, and whispered, "Daddy, I don't have nightmares anymore." I ran my fingers through her hair and smiled. I didn't win by shouting. I didn't burn anything down. I won by standing still and letting the truth walk in. But deep down, a small voice still whispered, "Linda isn't finished. There's something she's still hiding." And I intended to find out what it was. A week after everything blew up, I got a call from someone I never thought I'd hear from. Ashley, Linda's daughter. She didn't live here. Hardly anyone in the congregation had ever even met her. But her voice on the phone was calm, clipped, and unmistakably serious. "I want you to know," she said, "I had no idea about the bank accounts. I never touched a single cent. My mother used my name behind my back." I stayed silent for a moment. "Why are you telling me this now?" She sighed. "Because I hate what she did, and because I think there's something else you should know. Something that might finally end this." Her voice lowered. "Years ago, before she was this perfect church queen, my mom had an affair with Pastor James. She got pregnant. The church forced her to terminate the pregnancy to keep everything quiet. She's never forgiven them, or herself. My grip tightened on the phone. That's why she was so desperate. That's why she tried to bury me. Not just for her image, but to hide a secret that could burn everything to the ground. Ashley continued. She recorded a conversation about it once. I found it in an old hard drive when I was cleaning. I'm sending it to you. Do what you want with it. An hour later, the audio file arrived in my inbox. Linda's voice crackled in the background. Raw. Shaken. If the thing with James gets out, not just the money, but the baby, then it's over. The church, my reputation, everything. We pin it on David. No one will question it. I listened to that recording 3 times. The final nail. And Ashley, she signed over permission for me to release it. So I did. I sent it to the church board, the local press, and the same network that had live-streamed the fundraiser. Within hours, headlines were everywhere. Scandal deepens. Saint Margaret's church rocked by audio confession. Pastor James resigned that afternoon. Linda disappeared from public view entirely. Her old allies distanced themselves. Even the ones who once praised her as a beacon of Christian womanhood now claimed they had no idea what she was capable of. I didn't care about their hypocrisy. I had what I wanted: justice and peace. I was invited to speak at a fatherhood event, hosted by a nonprofit for single dads. I went, not for recognition, but for Emma. She sat in the front row, legs crossed, waving at me with a proud little smile that melted my heart. I stepped onto the stage, took a breath, and began. I was once labeled a failure, a dangerous man, a liar. But the truth doesn't die just because you ignore it. And the moment you stop hiding is the moment they lose control.